Good evening. Welcome to the Design Review Board meeting of December 14th, 2023. The DRB meeting is now called to order. Please refrain from talking among yourselves during the meeting, and please turn off or put on vibrate all cell phones at this time. For public comments and questions during the meeting, please call 818-937-8100. City staff will be submitting the questions and comments in real time to the appropriate person. Current DRB agendas and staff reports are available by visiting our website at www.glendaleca.gov. Records of decisions for all projects will be posted online on the Planning Division's website. A handout describing the procedures of the meeting, possible board decisions, and DRB appeal is available from staff. Please note that any appeal of a case heard today must be filed within 15 calendar days of the DRB decision date. Meetings are also archived on the city website for viewing anytime at glendaleca.gov/agendas. Roll call. Board Member Lockruff?
Present.
Board Member Kaskanian?
Present.
Member Chagayan is absent. Board Member Welch?
Present.
And Board Member Simonian.
Present.
Since Chairperson Chagayan is absent, the board will need to nominate a chair pro tem. Is there a nomination and a second?
I'll nominate Board Member Kaskanian.
Oh, you want to do it again?
Okay.
Second.
Perfect. So, Board Member Kaskanian, you will be our chair pro tem. Would you like to switch seats at this time? Thank you. So reports regarding posting of agenda. The agenda for the September 20, hold on a second.
These are the old ones, so we'll just put them here. That's right.
The agenda for the December 14th, 2023 regular meeting of the Glendale Design Review Board was posted on the city's website on December 7th, 2023, and on the bulletin board outside City Hall on December 11th, 2023. Approval of minutes. That would be approval of minutes for November 9th, 2023. At that time, present was Board Member Kaskanian, Board Member Simonian, Board Member Welch, and Board Member Chairperson Chagayan, and absent was Board Member Lockruff. Do I have a motion for the approval of minutes?
I'll move to accept the minutes.
Okay. Do I have a second?
A second.
Okay, and oral communication. Discussion is limited to items not a part of this agenda. Each speaker is limited to 5 minutes. Design Review Board may question or respond to the speaker, but there will be no debate or decision. I do not have any oral communication. Okay. Any board member comments at this time? None? Okay, well then we will move along to old business. And we have one case under old business. Chair Pro Tem Kaskanian.
Okay.
That would be at 2508 St. Andrews Drive, and that would be Designer Review Board case number 001558-2023.
Thank you.
Okay, good evening, board members. I'm Chloe Cuffle, the case planner for this project at 2508 St. Andrews Drive. As you may remember, this was brought before the board on September 28th, returned for redesign with several conditions of approval. So tonight I will walk through those conditions of approval, some of the project details, and show sort of a side-by-side of the old plans and the revised proposal. As a refresher, the subject site is in the Chevy Chase Canyon of Glendale on St. Andrews Drive. It's an R1R zone, and the site has a variance to allow for construction on a substandard lot. The subject site is a vacant 6,708 square foot lot with an average current slope of 60%. It's irregular in shape and has several existing oak trees on the property. Okay, the overall dimensions of the revised proposal are the same. One new 2,010 square foot, 3-story, single-family house with an attached 2-car garage. Site improvements involve grading 375 cubic yards of cut, 400 cubic yards of fill, 25 cubic yards of input, and 3,060 square feet of open ungraded space. And there will be a 5-foot-tall retaining wall at the southern end of the property. And you may remember there were 3 to begin with. And the project is exempt from CEQA. Okay, so as a reminder, these are the conditions of approval from our previous hearing. I'm not going to read through them all, but I thought it would be helpful to just keep them in mind as we look at the new proposal. Okay, so we have the previous proposal on the left-hand side of the screen, and the new proposal is on the right. Very few changes have been made to the elevations, especially at the front. And here you can sort of see that those 3 retaining walls have been removed, and there will just be the one. And we can look at this again later as well. The side elevations, there have not been visible changes made. And then here's a side-by-side of, again, the previously reviewed floor plans and the existing. I know you can't see these in great detail, but just to kind of show that very little changes have really been made to the floor plan. Okay, so we can talk a little bit about the first condition now regarding the site planning. The first condition was to rotate the building placement towards the street, thereby reducing the grading and number of proposed retaining walls and reducing overall mass and scale. Here you can see the previously proposed site plan on the left and the revised site plan. The building footprint has been rotated about 10 degrees towards the street, and it sits closer now to the 15-foot setback line. And as I mentioned before, the grading plan has stayed the same. And again, here's that elevation drawing we have showing the reduction of retaining walls at the rear. Okay. Regarding condition number 2, canopy at the rear shall be extended across the entire rear facade. As you can see from the previous and new, the canopy really has not been changed. And then moving on to conditions 3 and 5, which were requests for cut sheets. We have the door here, the decorative paving, and the lighting. And staff included a recommendation to maybe choose a different paver material, but yeah, we believe those conditions have been mostly met. And I did not include conditions 4 and 6 because condition number 4 is the urban forestry condition. It's standard to include that. And number 6 has not been addressed but can be met at staff level.
And which one was number 6?
Number 6 was... Oh, the gutters, yes. Clearly depict gutters and downspouts on the drawing and paint them to match. Okay, so we are recommending approval with the following conditions. Number 1 would be the same condition we already had regarding the canopy at the rear, making that extend across the entire rear facade and be in an earth tone color to match the overall style of the house. 2, that the applicant shall comply with the recommendations in the urban forestry department comments. And 3, a more decorative driveway paver to more closely match the design guidelines. And 4, again, to clearly depict gutters and downspouts on the drawings. And that concludes my portion of the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any speaker? You have a question?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. With the new proposal, I didn't get the last figure. It was 375 cubic yards of cut
Yes, I believe so.
and 400 cubic yards of fill. And what was the export with the new calculations?
Let me see if I have it in front of me. 25 cubic yards of import and 3,060 square feet open ungraded space.
Open. And so 375 cubic yards of cut, 400 cubic yards of fill, and 25 cubic yards of import.
Yes.
And with the previous submittal, what were those figures previously?
They were the same.
I see.
Yes.
And so with all the retaining walls that are being removed, how could it be the same?
Well, I think the applicant could probably explain this better than me, but I think he was planning on perhaps filling in the area where the driveway bridge was with some of that dirt.
Understood.
Yeah.
Okay. And on sheet 2.3, and I think it was one of the plans that staff had on the board, there's that hatched portion at the bottom. I think it was a comparison of the floor. Yes,
This?
correct. So the
Okay.
revised site plan on the right side, what is that hatched portion?
I think that's the deck type area, the outdoor space.
That's kind of the,
Yes.
and is that area on grade more or less?
Yes.
Okay. And in regards to, and I think I know the answer to this is a no, but in regards to the site plan that depicts the location of the house with the contours and the spot elevations, has one been submitted with the new site plan with the
No.
proposed design as rotated?
No.
No, okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Yes.
Perhaps it was in the original set of plans, but I didn't see a window specification listed.
It is in the original set of plans, but because it didn't come up as a condition, I didn't even think to include it, but I can pull it up if you would like to see it.
Oh, if it wasn't a condition before, then I'm sure we evaluated that
Okay.
previously. Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions? Nope. All right. Do we have any speaker cards?
This is for. Yes, give us just one moment.
Okay. Yeah, if anyone wants to speak, please feel free to fill out a card and then hand it over. Thank you. All right, Mr. Corin, if you'd like to come up.
Good
Thank you.
afternoon.
If you could state your name.
Aren Kudikian.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm just going to go straight to the board's main concerns. My understanding was basically the siting of the building and removing the retaining walls in the backyard area. We achieved that with the revised plans. Actually, what we did, we pushed the building down elevation-wise, like 2-3 feet from previous elevation, and so now the driveway slopes down towards towards the house as opposed to sitting flat level as it was proposed originally. And then by rotating the building, we pushed the building forward to 15-foot setback line. And in terms of, the driveway, additional parking area, it's about the same. It's a little less. And at the end, with the final solution, we ended up with only one retaining wall at the back visible, about 4 or 5 feet high. And what that retaining wall does, and the reason why it's, the backyard that is so crooked is because it sits right on the contour line. Lowest possible contour line at the elevation 788.
Thank you. Any questions?
I do have questions, Mr. Chair, but I'm going to let maybe others ask first because the drawings don't depict the retaining walls. And so based on what he just described of 788, I want to kind of draw that out and compare it to get a sense of the orientation on the site. So if there's any other questions, please proceed.
So I wanted to address the issue of the canopy, because I think that there was maybe potentially some confusion about that. When we talked about it continuing all the way across, we were talking about it basically covering up the tallest vertical element on the
Correct, which is done.
facade. So, and having it, because in one of the renderings from the original set, it didn't come across, but in the elevation it did.
Yes.
So I think our clarification was that it just continued across so that it covered that vertical element, but
It is
not
covering.
not going all the way across the whole facade.
Exactly.
Okay, so I just want to be clear about that. Are you in the same mind?
Yes,
that-
yes.
Okay.
And if, as you can see, it does cover that tall element.
Yes, yes, and that was what I believe our condition was about, not going all the way across the whole facade.
That's how I understood.
Okay, all right, I just wanted to confirm that with you. And I recognize that you did drop the whole height by 3 feet there, but the question I have, and I think Mr. Simone is going to be looking into that a little bit, is the grading element. By dropping it down, was there not any more excavation that was needed?
Not necessarily. The excess dirt that, or the original plan, the way it was designed, these lower plans, I was anticipating that the excess dirt will go over there. So it will fill that area. But because the board requested to remove these walls, this excess dirt we had to put somewhere else, and I discussed this with the staff that if I can put that underneath the driveway, and I was told that it can be done.
So was
So
the
that
driveway
excess dirt
going
is
to
going
be
to go
floating?
underneath the driveway.
Was the driveway going to float before, but now it's going to have backfill?
It was, the original plan, it was just a deck.
Okay, okay,
Structural
okay.
deck floating over.
Okay.
Now it's just, it has walls on.
Got it, okay. All right, thank you, those are my questions.
Thank you.
I know we'll get into grading in a moment, but I also, just in terms of site drainage, I was wondering, that was one condition that wasn't met, is showing where the gutters are. Are they integrated into the walls, or is there?
The revised plans, you see these vertical lines?
It's a little hard to
Flat
see.
roof, it shows the downspout right there. No, go a little further. Yeah, right there.
Oh.
Yeah, right there. That's,
So the
that
seam,
vertical line is a
oh, that's the
downspout.
downspout, okay. Okay. And you also mentioned, so now the drainage is coming towards the house down the driveway?
Drainage, yeah, it's a
Correct.
continuous gutter across the driveway.
Right, and I'm sure that's something you'll explore with building and safety, but just wondering how you're then getting the water up and away.
That's one of the other
Right.
reasons why the building was sitting up, so it will avoid that.
Right. And then in terms of, we were just talking about windows and materials. They weren't provided in this submittal, but I'm assuming that you're being consistent with what you provided previously. Is that correct?
That they will be of quality.
Right, the same specifications. Okay, thank you.
Board Member Simonian?
I need another minute.
Okay.
If I may.
Yeah.
I do have another question then, as you're diving in.
Thank you.
The one question that Mr. Chairperson, not Chair, sorry, Board Member Simonian was asking about was this hatched, if you can go to the site plan,
That's basically, essentially the backyard.
the backyard, is that fill as well, or is it just?
It is filled.
It is, correct, okay, just making sure. Okay. It's, yeah, just a little challenging without site sections. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, may I ask some questions?
Yes.
And so, just so, you understand a little bit about my, at least, viewpoint on this was previously, there were a lot of questions about how the building sat on the site. And so we were really concerned about an accurate grading plan that depicted where retaining walls were going to be replaced at the, bottom of wall information, top of wall information, how that retaining wall kind of circles around a site, how much dirt is going to be cut, how much is going to be filled, how much is going to be imported, et cetera. At the time, I think I was the one I suggested, rotating the building clockwise, and you adamantly said it's impossible, but you've done it now. However, when we're looking at the plan, there is not a site plan that depicts the building location, the retaining walls, with the contours, with the site elevations that accurately match the sections to understand if what is being proposed is actually possible. Because it's the information's missing, and staff is saying it's missing as well. And so when we're looking at, let's say, the site section, previously there were 3 retaining walls, and now there's just 1 retaining wall with the exact same amount of cut, fill, import, and that's virtually impossible. It's impossible to take a project that had 3 retaining walls and the entire, maybe 40% of the site was being graded down to only 1 retaining wall and numbers not changing. And so I'm positive that those numbers are incorrect. But it's not depicted, whereas in, previously there was a site plan that depicted it. As you were speaking, I was, looking at the set, and, the plans show the lower level as 795, but then all of a sudden there's a terrace at 793.
Terrace is at 792.
But anyways, the plan says 793. But let's say it's even 792. All of a sudden, you see how crucial that retaining wall height could be, because you can't go over 5 feet of a retaining wall. Yeah. And so it almost seems as though you've taken the 5-foot retaining wall, erased all the site contours around it, and said, here it is, it works. But none of it is depicted here. And that's the issue I have, is I didn't think the site grading worked previously. I didn't think the drawings were accurate. And I'm even more concerned now. So I have some issues with the fact that it's missing all this information. And we always ask for it, and we demand it, and people go through a lot of effort to provide it. And in this case, it's just not there. It's very hard to tell by your drawings whether that driveway is sitting on grade or it isn't. You're saying you're gonna fill it, but when I'm taking the side street, it's 816 as a spot.
815.
15. Even worse. I mean, then you're saying the driveways at, or the upper levels at 813. That's only a 2-foot difference. Just 2 foot lower. So you can't put dirt there.
Not 2 feet tall, but the site is sloping down.
Correct. And so
There's
there's.
a triangle there.
But it's a very small triangle.
It's not.
And so it's
At-
hard
at-
to say that you're relocating hypothetically all this cut up there.
The grade differential between the face of the building and the front is about 6 feet. So that triangle height at the face of the building, actually it's much lower, you know, where the garage facade is. It's probably 8 or 9 feet.
But you can't have retaining walls above 18 inches from finished grade in the front setback. So once you start going into really the semantics of how you're gonna hold that dirt, not only, anyways, I'm not gonna have this, because this is how the discussion went last time, but I just feel as though these drawings are not accurate, based on, they're preliminary is what they are. And there's not enough data here, at least for me to understand it. And I'm being very upfront in the beginning, just so you kind of understand our viewpoint, because we, as a board, were very upfront the first time around, and we said, yeah, this is what we need. This is what we need from you when you come back. And it's not here. And so that's my issue with this, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Thank you. Do you have any other things?
I
that
just
we-
want to go over that, whatever Mr. Simonian said about a retaining wall. The driveway slopes down. The face of the building at the garage, if you draw a vertical line when it hits the grade, is about 7 feet there. So you end up with a triangle that is the height of the triangle is 7 feet. So there's a plenty dirt there to be filled, area to be filled with the dirt. It's not just 2 feet as you're visualizing it.
Well, I'm visualizing because it's not in your drawing. So
Well,
which
I
section
mean, the
can we look
contours
at?
are
Is there
there.
a
Look,
section that
you know,
depicts the
there's
driveway?
810 that runs across the
What
face
sheet
of the
are you-
building.
What sheet are you on, so we could follow you?
But the site plan,
Okay, we'll go to the
but
site
the
plan.
site plan.
2.1?
This plan.
I don't think that's in our package.
We didn't receive that.
Well, you know, site plan was, you don't have this plan?
Let me see. It should have been included.
I mean, it's your set, so tell us what sheet to go to and we'll go to it.
Well, it would be 8.1,
1 point.
the site plan, the thing that is rotated. May I approach the plan?
Yes?
Do you have this?
No.
But even this site plan, well, this is good, but it doesn't include the whole site.
Now this, you know, is that okay for me to explain?
Well, you
Do you
gotta
want-
go to the
yeah,
podium.
Yeah, go back.
You could leave this here.
Can leave
Yeah.
this here.
Yeah.
You see the contours there now?
Well,
Now what?
my question is simple. Do you have a section through your driveway that
I'll
depicts
show
the
you
entire
another
site?
section
Yes.
that-
And so where in this section are you going to store all that dirt?
The dirt that will be stored underneath here, the natural grade comes across like this, and at this point is about 7, 8 feet.
Anyways,
Do you know if this was part of the packet or was this sent later on?
I don't know. I think it might have been sent later. Yeah, I think it was sent later.
Okay. All right. Yeah, if you'd like to go back over here. Thank you.
yeah, I just don't have enough information. Our issue with, the project the first time around was the complete lack of detail on grading. And it's even more obscure now because the house is rotated, apparently, but I don't have any information as to how it sits on the site. I don't understand the grading. I don't understand how the retaining walls relate. It's impossible for your cut and fill to be the same from last time, and as an architect, I would imagine you understand that. So when it's the same, when it's this different, obviously something's different. And I think this is going to be one of those projects that goes through plan check, a lot of issues come up, and there's going to be a lot of zoning issues, there's going to be a lot of problems that come up because it's being forced. You should have taken your time to get it right. And
It is right.
Well,
I mean, I
okay.
keep on saying that it is right.
That's all I have to say, Mr.
Okay.
Chair. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is there any callers?
No.
Perfect, okay. All right, we're gonna close the session for speaking, and then we'll go into debriefing. Does anyone want to start?
I suppose I can.
Okay.
Yeah, I would agree with board members Simonian that I just feel like the information is incomplete. It's really hard to evaluate when there's no 3D views. There's no. I think in part we didn't receive the site section in a timely manner, so that's been hard. It's hard for us to just take it now and try to evaluate something that we don't have time to evaluate, essentially. And I would say if for some reason it does move forward, that I would recommend that besides, working with staff on making the grading plan more clear, I would say that I'd like to make sure that we add a condition regarding materials and the windows, just that to make sure that they're very specific and exactly what we had reviewed before. And the other item, would be just, working with staff to identify drainage a bit better. It sounds like gutters are on the plan, but and let's see, the other one is we talked, as Board Member Welsh mentioned, the canopy was addressed, so that item we would not need. So, but I look forward to hearing to what my colleagues think as well. Again, it's just a little harder to evaluate given the incompleteness of the drawings. So, thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Walsh.
Well, I recognize that you worked to address many of our comments, in particular, orienting the house a little bit so it was more in alignment with the street. I personally hope that you'd maybe make it a little bit more, maybe bent or something like that, so it really addressed the street. But, I just, you did do something here to affect that. And I think lowering the mass of the building was pretty much the only solution to trying to get those retaining walls removed. So I think that you did what was necessary. And, while you haven't necessarily given us all of the requirements, I would be okay with moving forward. But, if you guys don't feel comfortable doing that, I'll go along with what you say. But, I mean, I think, what could have been done has been done. It's a very difficult site to work with, you know, and I acknowledge that the grading is a critical element of it. But, you know, the specific details will come out through plan check as opposed to here, you know, so, I mean, we're really here to talk about the design and elements of that, and, you know, the specifics of that kind of grading element, you know, I mean, I think it's close. I think it may be, you know, maybe Art is right, and it's just not going to functionally be correct. But, you know, I'm okay with moving it. So those are my thoughts on it, you know.
Thank you. Board Member Simonian?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And, yeah, so, and by the way, I think this section is, you know, a working section that, you know, the architect's working on, has brought it here. I think this thing is moving so quickly. I think staff has turned it around as quickly as possible. I've never seen a project go 3 months from the first hearing to the next as a return for redesign. So they are working as hard as they can to try to accommodate your team. They really are. I've never seen it in 3 months for a project turnaround. Year, yes. 9 months, maybe. 3 months is super fast. And I realize you're doing that because you have, you know, a time crunch. But at the same time, even this section that you gave us today, where it says the garage elevation is 813, that matches this set that we have. You've shown your living as 801, but this set shows it as 804 on the plans, so just clearly mark as 804, which is on sheet 2.2. And the lower level is clearly marked as 795 on sheet 2.3, and all of a sudden this shows it as 792, where there is no step between the yard and the bedroom, and miraculously the retaining wall works. I think this is a working section, you know, as an architect would give to the team within an office and say, here's a concept, is this workable, is this doable? And then somebody would have to sit there and work out the contours and the grading, look at the retaining heights, work with a civil engineer to balance the site, and to be able to answer all the questions that we typically have. And, you know, had we not been as straightforward last time around of requesting exactly what we needed, I would have been on the same page as in, well, this might work itself out. But it's a difficult site, and I know these small sites are extremely difficult to work, no room for error, and so I can't support the project. I cannot, you know. That would be my approach today. I think it has a lot of work to do to really get to the point where we could agree that it's a doable design. At this point, I think it's a sketch. There was just some 1,000 cubic yards or something being exported previously, or something. There was just an astronomical number being taken out or moved around, I remember. And it's just all of a sudden, kapoof, it's the same. So I can't support it based on those thoughts. Those are my thoughts, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Yeah, and I concur with Board Member Simonian as well. I think you brought up a good point. I think I just remembered reviewing this case like a couple months ago too, so it was very fast. But yeah, I concur with Board Member Simonian. I think we definitely need a little bit more information before we move forward with it. Okay.
I agree that we definitely need more information. I was wondering if consideration for a condition that he does meet the, 5-foot wall and, the grading quantities, if he can prove that to staff, as a condition that it would not move forward without that. I'm just throwing that out there as a potential solution or a path forward. I'm just wondering what your thoughts on that.
I would be Well, because we were so upfront, we
Yeah, and
requested it and it was
right.
ignored. And so
Right,
I
and not
think.
provided yet,
Yeah, I
yeah.
think if someone ignores it at this point, they're going to just
Continue.
continue
Right,
ignoring
yeah.
it. Would I be comfortable with continuing this hearing for them to bring the information? I don't have an issue with that.
Right.
Oh, interesting. Is that an option for us to continue the hearing?
Could you repeat that? I couldn't quite.
Yeah, in the past, where we've had questions and verifications were needed, we were able to ask for a continuation to a date-specific time, where the applicant would come back with the stated questions. I'm not sure if that's going to work with their timing of what they need to accomplish. And that's the dilemma, is there's a gun against this board's head at the moment, saying, well, there's a time limit. This has to happen tonight, or those entitlements go away. And go with it. And if I was the architect, I would have worked really hard to bring these, drawings forward to depict that it works, knowing that it's my last chance to get an approval. Like, this is it. If it doesn't work, the timing's out. And it just seems as though there wasn't enough time, and it didn't happen, and staff really worked hard to do it. I know you guys must have just worked day and night to get this thing through so quickly, to get here. So, but, I've said my piece, and I think, at this point, if continuation is not an option, I'm not sure.
Is it an option?
It is, however, the issue is that there's a variance associated with this property that is set to expire
When?
in the coming weeks. Do you know the exact date?
It's
I
the
know
end
it's-
of January.
So we could potentially continue
Two
it.
meetings.
No,
To
we
meet
have
in
just
January.
One meeting before,
Correct.
We have January,
the first one in January.
January
and then-
12th?
Yeah. something like
12th?
that.
I believe so, yes.
well,
And it would have to be done at that meeting to get to hit. the
January
deadline.
11th.
January 11th. yeah.
If,
That sounds good.
is January 11th continuation an
We're gonna,
option?
let's double check the date on the decision letter for the variance, but it would be January 11th.
Okay.
The second date, that's going to be too close.
Maybe we
if-
bring the applicant forward, tell him what we need, and see if he could do it by January.
Can we speak with that?
Open the public portion.
Mr. Godin, if you could come to the podium, please. Thank you. So we're discussing on having it continue potentially on January 11th, and the board over here is,
May I ask, what is it exactly? You're looking for exact calculation for grading? Is this what you're looking for?
Well, I think it's that, but it's also the true site elevation from top to bottom, all the way through, showing how the house sits on the site with exact gradations from the site plan,
If we
showing
can
how.
bring back the side elevations, I can explain it now.
You're missing the point. I'm sorry, we're asking for the information to be put on paper. And so that's what was asked last time.
Well, it is put on paper. The elevations have been revised.
Through a site section specifically that goes through,
Site.
that shows the cut and fill locations would be really helpful to understand where the grading's occurring.
But the side elevations, can you put side by side?
I don't know that I have
does this
them.
do we have the dates yet to see if?
Yes, I'm looking at it for it right now in the decision letter. Give me one moment.
Yeah, because we don't want to go into explanation right now, just because
Correct.
we have more stuff on
We already
that we have to go
closed it,
through.
This, I think, is the closest that we've got, is this section here that cuts through. But there's
So-
no dimensions on here in terms of elevation along the site, no lines showing the natural grade going through here that we can see where that would be cutting through
Through the sections?
the entire section.
Yeah. Almost like you need a preliminary grading plan. To go to a civil engineer and ask for a preliminary grading plan, where they spot the top of wall, and the bottom of wall
Understand
along.
what you're saying. I just, you know, I want to point this out on comparative elevations, side by side. The revised elevation, you see, you know, it's cut right through. The only thing that is missing is the actual existing grade dash line as it cuts across the building. I
Yeah,
mean,
but it's,
You know, I
it
did-
could be anything.
Yeah.
It,
And that's what we're saying is for us to
That's the
bring.
only
read
thing-
information on there
Okay.
with a preliminary grading plan by a civil engineer that locates the walls, locates the house, that does a cut and fill drawing with different colors, shows the cut, shows the fill, shows the import, shows where the dirt's going, actual tabulations, cubic yard calculations of how you're storing the dirt. It's work. It's not just, you know, taking the elevation and a section and saying, this is it. It's depicting the data on a set. And that's what we asked for last time, and I could tell you didn't, there was some miscommunication because you're still asking questions as to what we're looking for.
Ilka, did you have an update?
Yes, so it is set to expire the end of January, approximately the 27th of
Okay.
this next year coming up. So potentially, we can try to get it on the January 11th. That would be the soonest.
But he would have to.
If the applicant agrees with the date and agrees that they're able to furnish the information in a timely manner for staff to review it, because again, now we have to prepare a new staff report showing responses to the board's comments and conditions.
You actually have to prepare it, because it's just a continuation of this current case.
Correct. We still, traditionally, we still prepare, most of the information's there. It's just more like explaining what transpired here today, and how did the applicant address those comments that the board is requesting for purposes of, again, the continuation.
I could attest that it's a lot of work for staff. It's a lot of work for them to do this over the holidays. So my concern is, and I think that, you know, maybe we close the public portion at the moment, but my concern is putting staff through that fire drill.
I mean, I'm willing to do it for the record.
Right, and that's great, but you have to be able to get the information. So I think a civil engineer needs to be brought on for them to do a preliminary grading plan. Your sections have to be updated, your plans have to be updated. And if that effort is going to occur, then we do it. If not, I think we just take a vote and see where this thing ends up tonight, and we go with it. That would be my thought.
And one more point, we don't need to, if we continue it, we don't need to notice it as long as we notice it to a date as long as we continue it to a date certain and it's articulated here this evening, you can decide in your motion without further noticing, for example. But for the benefit of the community, it would be nice if the applicant could modify the site posting so that the public knows and the neighborhood that there has been a continuation and a new date. Just wanted to put that out there for the board to consider.
Okay, thank you. So for now, we don't have any more public hearing, but January 11th, do you feel confident that you are able to get that information to our staff in time for us to have that continued?
Needed, you know, I will hire a civil engineer to draft up a preliminary grading plan.
Okay.
But as I keep on insisting, preliminary or not, this design fits the site. I've done these type of projects, tons of
Just
these
move
type.
past that statement. We're
Sorry, what?
looking for a preliminary grading plan. The chair has opened
the
the
preliminary
hearing to
grading
give you an opportunity to save the project.
Okay.
So let's stick on point. He's
We will do
asking
that.
very specifically if you could hire civil
We'll hire
engineer.
a civil
who could
engineer.
Have him do a cut and fill analysis,
That's no problem.
put the top of walls and bottom of wall elevations on the retaining walls, update your sections and plans. That's what's being asked from you at this moment, is if you're gonna be able to turn that around and give it to staff. That's the question.
Yes, we can do it.
Perfect.
Okay.
Wait, we have the things closed for right now, the public hearing.
So,
In Armenian? We,
He would have to fill out, well,
another form. Yeah, you would
another
have to fill out
form,
the
and
form.
I believe that
Ganeres,
you had closed the public portion of the meeting,
Ganeres. But
unless you
we-
reopen it.
Առաջ ասենք, առաջ ասած ենք, որ պաները պետք ունենք, բայց անո համար գսենք, որ նորեն. Okay. Գներեք. All right, so January 11th is what we have as our continued. Thank you.
Provide
do I-
So
preliminary.
we'll have to have a motion, and we'll have to have a second,
okay,
and we'll have to take a roll call. And before we do that, let's make sure
Yeah, I'd
we
like-
have all the comments so that we can relay
need
the message.
Detailed, I think, conditions, so he knows exactly what he's looking.
Exactly,
yeah.
Yes.
Because we will need to prepare a record of decision for this evening for this case and forward it to the applicant, so we want to make sure we have everything.
So to clarify, for the January 11th hearing, he needs to prepare a preliminary grading fill, a cut and fill analysis, we need the top and bottom of wall for all the for the retaining wall, and then the site sections need to be updated as well.
And a preliminary grading plan.
Yes, that was number one.
That was, yeah.
Perfect.
Well, there's a cut and fill analysis.
Right, they're
and-
separate.
And a preliminary grading plan. Different,
Yes,
yeah.
I have those listed, both listed. And then I'll also include the condition regarding the windows and the window materials and operations.
right. And also the facade materials and colors, just
Yes.
that everything's included.
And I can
Yeah.
just include that information in the next presentation also.
Thank you.
Since we have it.
And if the plans and the sections should match each other, the elevations on there, the spot elevations, everything should be cohesively tied in with a section through the driveway, et
Right.
cetera.
Right, and a site plan. I know that we didn't, it was turned in, but a site plan
correct.
that corresponds with the
Yes.
civil engineer's cut and fill
Yeah, like-
section.
Because previously there was a site plan like, you know, like this, that depicted the site
Right.
and the contours and the plan. So this is kind of what would be in the architectural set, and then the civil engineer would have a grading plan that kind of corresponds with this.
Okay. We have to vote for that, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
So
So I'd like to motion for a continuance to January 11th as discussed with the specific conditions. They need to be met by that next meeting.
So continuation with no further notice.
Correct, with no further noticing. Thank you.
For January 11th, 2024.
Correct.
Okay. And do we have a second?
I'll second the motion.
And that was a motion to continue to January 11th, 2024, with the comments that the board has made to be included. And this will be roll call. Board Member Locra,
Yes.
Board Member Simonian,
Yes.
Board Member Welch,
Yes.
Chair Pro Tem Koskanian.
Yes.
Motions carries to continue the case till January 11th without further noticing.
Thank you.
can you give us a 5-minute recess so we can switch planners at this time? And set up? Thank you. Okay, we're back on live, and we have the next item.
Good evening, Mr. Chair Pro Tem. If you guys are ready, I can start our next item. The next item is located at 2441 Sleepy Hollow Drive, case number PDR 002167-2023. The project's generally located, just like the last case in the Glen Oaks Canyon, on a parcel approximately of 11,000 square feet, zoned R1R. These are site photographs of the property. The site is currently developed with a one-story house developed circa 1949 with an attached street-facing two-car garage. The lot is mostly flat and was previously graded at the time when the neighborhood was developed. And at the rear and eastern interior yards, the topography has an upslope, as you can see on the right photograph on this slide. The applicant proposes to demolish the existing one-story single-family dwelling and to construct a new two-story, approximately 3,400 square foot single-family dwelling with an attached street-facing two-car garage. At the rear will be a detached 749 square foot accessory dwelling unit, which is not under the DRB's purview this evening. Overall, the building's site planning will comply with all setbacks of the R1R development standards. Overall, the site plan is supportable by staff with 2 recommendations. The first being a landscape plan be provided for staff review before building and safety plan check. As you may notice, within the previous slide was a photograph. The applicant had said that to maintain the existing landscaping, but there was no landscaping at the front. So staff is recommending that a landscape plan be provided once again prior to plan check, and a variety of California-friendly landscaping identified on WUCOLS or Be Water Wise be provided. The second condition in terms of site planning, as you may pay attention to the screen, I highlighted in brown, there will be a perimeter fence around the lot. It's a wooden fence. Staff recommends to set back the street-facing portions approximately 1 foot from the building's facade. And just to give you a visual, what I'm trying to clarify here is this is the rendering, and they have the fence there. Even though the rendering does show a very short wall, I imagine it can be taller. Staff is just recommending to set back these fences, which on the driveway side, they're not showing the fence, but we set this back maybe a foot to break up that elongated long wall of a building and a fence that would be viewed from the street. So staff believes just setting it offset from the facade would help break up that appearance. Moving on to mass and scale. Overall, the mass and scale of the 2-story is supportable. The neighborhood consists of a variety of both 1- and 2-story homes. To help reduce the mass of the 2-story, as recommended by the guidelines, the 2nd story of the building will be set back approximately 6 feet from the lower level. And you can see from the arrows kind of outlined in red here where these offsets are provided. And once again, this is about 6 feet. I think the dimension would be at its closest, but 6.5 feet offset from the lower level. Onto the project's design in detail. The project's contemporary modern design will include quality materials such as a standing seam metal roof, stucco siding, stone veneer base band, recessed nail-on fiberglass windows with fixed encasement operations. However, staff has 3 recommended conditions. The first, if I can guide your eyes to the slide here. It involves the 2-story front entry, which is discouraged by the guidelines, and staff recommends lowering the front entry and the front door to be properly scaled with the design and avoid the sense of monumentality that the guidelines recommends that we avoid. And then the second recommendation is the brick veneer to continue and wrap around the corner along the western facade to terminate at a more logical stop, which would be towards the rear. And then last, it would be the applicant to show locations of the downspouts of the project, as this is pretty some standard you've been seeing us, and we believe that we can handle this during plan check. Overall, staff recommends approval of the following conditions. I will briefly go over them really quick. It was lower the front entry cover and the front entry door to be properly scaled. The second would be set back the fence from the building facade to break up the long continuous wall with the combination of the fences and the building. The third, which I didn't mention, but you may notice in the rendering, it was to paint the fence a darker color to complement the tone of the building in lieu of the natural light color stain you may see on the, I know it's a small photograph here, but I can enlarge the rendering. And number 4 is once again have a landscape plan prior to plan check, and these materials, the plant materials be California friendly. Number 5, wrap the brick veneer along the western facade and terminate at a more logical location. And then 6, the ever perfunctory, identify the downspouts for staff's review prior to plan check. And this concludes staff's presentation.
Thank you. Any questions?
Just one, because on this rendering that I see on the front page, the stonework does appear to go down the side. So we're really just trying to make it look more like that one, correct?
When you go to the architect's non-colored renderings indicate stucco. So
Yeah,
I
yeah,
kind
I-
of referenced that one there, and not to be too nitpicky. Yeah, in the rendering you show there, it doesn't terminate at a logical stop either, because it stops mid-plane.
Yeah.
You know, if do so, if you think that's sufficient, we can proceed with that. But staff's recommendation is something in line with our guidelines to have that logical stop, either at an inside corner, outside corner, where, you know, outside of public view, so.
Any other questions? Board Member Lockroth?
I have a quick question. There's a overhang at the garage, a kind of linear. What is the function of that? I wanted to check in with you. Is it purely aesthetic or?
The way a staff looked at, I think it's just a brow, like
Okay.
a architectural feature. Although I don't know what the material will be, I imagine it might be stucco because it matches, but that's maybe a good question we can clarify with the applicant. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Board Member Simonian?
Yes, I had a quick question regarding the existing retaining wall that's under a separate permit.
Yes.
Is that already built, or it's just already permitted and it'll be built during?
It was already permitted, yeah.
Okay, so it will be built during
I
construction?
think it's already built, and they're going to keep it.
Okay.
Yeah. I haven't walked to the back, but we can verify, because I believe from my recollection of looking at the permit research, it was permitted in the past.
Okay.
Even if you look at Google aerial views, you can see the lowboy dumpster at the front, and I think they were excavating when you look at it. So I
Right,
think it's already constructed, but yeah.
And in regards to a natural termination of the stone veneer on the west side, if, let's say, the office popped out or popped in, would that make any difference if it popped out? Because there's like a 10-foot setback. If it, let's say, popped out a foot into the setback area, are they kind of at the limit of their FAR or approvals, et cetera?
I think they do have some. I did think about that, because then that would change the linear, and then it may create some oddities with the upper levels above, and we can discuss it. The staff just kind of recommended maybe, I don't know if it might be palatable for them, just to continue along the wall, but that's something we can definitely talk about, yeah.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right, we have one speaker card. Nadig? Is there an? Is it by you?
I don't have one.
Oh, wait, is it this?
No, the one that I had was from Nordic.
Go ahead, Nadig. Thank you.
Good evening, Board. My name is Narek. I'm the project designer. We're okay as far as all the conditions that Dennis stated. You know, the landscape plan is fine. We'll get that from a landscape designer. Wrapping the stone on the side, we're okay with that too. There's a window. We can stop at the window or after the window. And the retaining wall was built and finalized, so that's been done already. The brow over the garage door, that is a smooth stucco. It's decorative. And I think I do show downspouts and gutters on the plans too. So
I think that's on the rendering.
the color renderings.
It's on the color rendering, yes, yes.
We would love to keep the entry high. I did go through the neighborhood and took a bunch of pictures. I think Dennis gave you guys. You know, it does match some of the homes in the neighborhood. There's a lot of two-story homes. There's a lot of these, you know, two-story kind of massive that goes from first to second floor. So there you can see. Those are all on the same street, Sleepy Hollow.
I'm going to start at the top.
Okay. And then, you know, the house is actually right next to a castle. So, as far as massing, I think we, you know, pretty much fit in the neighborhood. think that's it.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant?
I do have a question regarding the condition. I know that you do want to keep that entrance higher.
Right.
But how would you address that condition? Should, you know, we be in agreement that it does need to be addressed to meet design
Yeah, if
guidelines?
it does need to get addressed, it would probably come down maybe over the front door. I have a 10-foot door and another pop-out, like similar to the garage pop-out, right on top of it.
Okay. So would the roof, for instance, continue over?
Correct, yes.
Something like that?
Right.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Any other questions for the applicant? No? All right, thank you, Nadik. And then we had one more speaker, Fred. Fred, if you could please just let us know your name.
Good evening. My name is Fred Stifter. I live at 2430 Sleepy Hollow Drive, Glendale, California, 91206. Our house is approximately 2 stories down and on the opposite side of the street. I'm a little confused with the notice that we received, because it talks about just this single-family home and does not mention anything about the ADU unit, nor does it mention anything about an additional building that is proposed on the site. And that is posted on the sign that is outside of the building, the proposed site. The second sentence in this thing that is on the building or on the site states 1,880 square foot single-family residence with an attached 2-car garage and an attached 784 square foot accessory dwelling unit on an 8,984 square foot flag lot. The first part of the statement that you have here, I presume, is supposedly for the entire lot. But this seems like a contradiction in that it has a second building home that they want to build on it with an ADU unit attached to it. Could somebody clarify that?
So to answer Mr. Fred Stifter, I believe your last name was, there is an ADU in the back, but however, ADUs are not under the purview of the Design Review Board per state mandate. It will be back there. They can propose it with a brand-new home, but the ADU will be accessory to it. But the board doesn't have any authority over its design. If it complies with its 4-foot setbacks and it meets if it's under 800 square feet, it meets the criteria outlined by the zoning code. It's a ministerial.
Could somebody please explain this sign then that is out in front of the house? Because it appears as if there are 2 homes that are proposed. And one of those homes will have an ADU, and one of them is this larger home.
Would you mind if
I
can I
would be
read that?
happy to give this to you.
Please, thank you.
It's a picture of the sign that I took
Thank you.
in front of the house. I have another copy for you if you'd like to.
I think there is remnant language of a previous posting that may have been on there. It was regarding a property on New York. But for the record, there is not going to be a flag lot on there. But there will be an approximately 3,400 square foot single-family dwelling with an attached 500 square foot garage. So, I can check my records if that is an error, but if that remnant language made it on there. So there, at the end, at the trailing end of this, on this notice here, it says there is a 1,880 square foot single-family residence with an attached two-car garage and an attached 784 square foot accessory dwelling unit on an 8,984 square foot flag lot. That might have been,
That's to be stricken.
yes, that has to be stricken, yes, yes.
Well, then it should be stricken from the sign in front of the house, should it not? Because it's a little confusing.
Accurately, yes, it should, but it did get posted on the web with, I think, with the accurate. But the good news is, it's not going to happen.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Well, good, because I don't know.
But thank you for bringing this to our attention, because that's very important. I do appreciate it, yes.
There's a few other things that I would like to comment on with regard to this project and the site. And the first item is the retaining wall that you spoke about that has been approved. When, having lived on that block now for over 20 years, I've never seen the street as messy and as muddy as it has been since this project began with the retaining wall in the back of the house, for which several of the people who live on this block do not believe that it was permitted to begin with, but a permit may have been obtained at some point. In my experience with the city of Glendale and remodeling our house, we had to make sure that there was mitigation for mud movement, and that was not done at all in this project. That was done with the retaining wall that has been put up. And earlier you mentioned that a retaining wall had to be a maximum of 5 feet high. I believe the retaining wall in that backyard is over 10 feet. I could be wrong. I've only seen the retaining wall from the Edwards Place, which is above, and you can look down in the backyard and see the mud movement that has occurred in that backyard since this project or since the retaining wall was put up. So my concern is, and this is if this project goes ahead, is that the codes and that the procedures be enforced and taken care of. The street has been very muddy, and in fact, there were a couple of, you have in there a list of complaints that were made on the project with the dates concerning the mud flow and the dirt and the debris that was left on the street. So that's my main concern, and it's the concern of several neighbors on our side of the street and across the street from me that they just follow the codes.
Yep.
And I'm curious, and I don't know whether you can
Your
comment.
Time is up.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Wait, can I talk or do I have to fill out a
You have to fill out a form.
Can she talk?
Yes.
If she fills out a form.
Where is the form?
You could fill it out afterwards. Talk first, because we got to get going on the
That
hearing,
would
yes.
be really cool. No, yeah, so I actually lodged the
If
complaint.
you could say your name, please.
My name is Ellen Stifter, and I live at 2430, and I actually lodged the complaints a couple of years ago, just because I had a problem with the construction crew. Maybe it will be a different crew, maybe, I'm hoping, because these guys started way before 7, which I know is the noise ordinance. They'd have large trucks just idling, and then they'd be dropping dumpsters, and there was trash everywhere. The place looks like a crack house. I mean, the front, it's just horrible. And our neighbors, we all just say it's so junky there, it makes us all look bad. And so I'm hoping, like my dad was saying, that laws are that we have more control over that. Maybe someone, contractors overlooking it. I don't know, because it seemed like no one was overlooking it the last time. It was just very kind of weird and shady. So that's why I contacted. And then also with the whole the building itself, the architectural plans. I know they're saying everything is really big around that area. That's not really true. He showed pictures of the newest developments, which are called the Reserve, and they're the new elements. They're all the way at the top of the hill. For our area, yeah, there's a castle there. We call it a castle. It's been there forever. It has a really cool story and all that. For the rest of the homes, they're not large around. So I find that kind of odd. I just want to point out, it's going to look really odd. It's going to be an eyesore. My opinion won't matter. I know we'll go through, but I just want to say it's an odd, nothing is like, oh, everything's big around there. That's not true. So it's surrounded by smaller homes, older homes. So that's all I want to say. And hopefully, yeah, the construction, when it goes on, it has to be well regulated because a lot of the neighbors have children and these trucks are so loud. So,
Thank you.
okay?
Yeah, if you could fill out the card, please, and then hand it over. Thank you. Do we have any callers?
We have no callers.
No callers? Thank you. All right, so we'll close the portion of public hearing and move forward. Does anyone want to start?
I'll start.
You want to start?
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Overall, well, first I wanted to thank members of the public for coming out. Thank you for taking the time to do that. That was a noticing error that you pointed out, and so there's absolutely not going to be a scenario where two homes are being built. And so we're going to strike that last sentence from the noticing, and the drawings that have been presented to this board, which you're preview of and have seen, only depict one home and the ADU. And so that was just a typo. So, but thank you for bringing that up. And in regards to the noise and construction, of course, you know, this is going to follow building and safety guidelines, city inspections, et cetera. Things may have been a little different during the COVID times, but hopefully now that everyone's back, there'll be a lot more preview by the city. In regards to the design, I think it's well designed, well put, well orchestrated. I do think that that entry could be adjusted down, and I think Mr. Joe's idea of just simply lowering down and extending the roof from the office over the entry works just fine. The brick veneer, it would be nice for it to terminate where a building juts in or juts out, but that would require some sort of an amendment to the plan, so maybe that's just too much effort, and it might just be easier to take it all the way down, as staff is recommending. Might look a little weird if it just stops at the window, but it'll be out of sight, so I'll be open to whatever the board decides on that. But overall, I think all of staff's comments are well put and well stated and spot on. I support the project and think it's going to be a good addition to the neighborhood. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Member Lush?
Okay, thank you. Thank you to the public also for bringing that to our attention. I appreciate getting the feedback. I a little disagree with the scale of the design. I think it's a little large. When I visited the site, you know, maybe it's in scale with the castle next door, but it's certainly not in scale with most of the other houses around there. And in particular, because a lot of it is front-facing and very prominent on the street there. I would have liked to have seen more setback on that second floor. It's a very large house, 5 bedrooms, five and a half baths or something like that. So I concur with Mr. Joe, his comment about lowering the entryway, making it more single-story scaled. But if it were up to me, I would like to see that second floor step back even further. I think that there's plenty of space to do that on the site here, and I think that it would help diminish the massiveness that was present to me when I was looking at the story poles there on site. It just seemed quite abrupt in terms of it, you know, given that the castle next door is way up higher than this house. So it really, the site almost scales up towards that side and back. And so I'd like to see the house sort of matching that topography and stepping over to the side and up, you know, into the back So that would be my preference. In terms of the stone cladding on the side, I concur with Mr. Simonian. It's either goes all the way back, or maybe if we are going to be pushing that perimeter fence back a little bit, maybe it terminates at the perimeter fence there. It may be a logical place for it. So that would be my perspective on it. But aside from that, I concur with the conditions as the staff has put out there. So, thank you.
Mr. Welch, do you feel as though maybe removing the balconies from the second level in their entirety along the street would get us there? Or you feel as though pushing it even further back, like the actual bedrooms further back?
I was thinking the bedrooms actually pushed back, but, you know, if the balconies at least were eliminated, that would help. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
I concur. I think that it's almost there, and I do think that it's a project that we can move forward with some conditions. I agree that it feels massive at this point, but I think that the overall floor plan's very close. I agree that the second floor either being pushed back or removal of the balconies would help assist in making it feel, bringing down the scale, and then definitely staff's condition regarding the front entry. I think that continuing the roof line and bringing down that door would be very helpful, and not having, keeping the stone veneer to the first floor specifically instead of raising it up. That kind of increases the mass there. I think by removing that roof over the entry down, it'll help reduce the scale. Again, I do think it's very close in that with those conditions, it could easily move forward and be a really nice design. The other item that you had brought up, Board Member Simonian, is I agree that if the building could somehow, even if it popped forward a little bit, 6 inches, to distinguish where the stone veneer ends, I think it would be beneficial aesthetically. I think that's it for my comments. Otherwise, I'm in agreement with staff's conditions. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, I'm in agreement with staff's recommendations. I think you did a great job with the design of the house. I truly do like it a lot. I think what you brought up, Board Member Welsh, with the stone veneer and then pushing back the fence, I think, and then having it end over there, I think that's a good point. But other than that, I do support this project. I think you guys did a great job.
Mr. Chair, it seems as though with the mass, right, we would need to have some consensus at the moment. And so, Board Member Welsh, do you want to kind of take the lead on, so one idea would be just elimination of the balconies.
Correct, yeah.
That's very simple, very doable scenario. And the other would be actually moving the west mass back to eliminate a portion of the rear balcony where the master bath kind of slips to the edge.
By the west mass, you mean on the left side? on the
Correct,
second floor?
right. But that would adjust a bunch of things, and I don't know what that would do interior-wise. Another idea would be just shift the west side back 2'11", which is that closet next to the stairs on the second level. So if the mass were to go back 2 feet on the second level on the west side, I do think elimination of the balconies would result in quite a bit of mass reduction in itself, and other things. If everything else was to stay the same, just elimination of the balconies in the front would make a big difference. So since you brought that up, I'm gonna kind of, and it's a 2-2 vote tonight, so we can't really ask for a third person to break the vote. Then, I'm okay if you kind of take the lead on crafting a condition that you put
Okay.
forward this evening.
So to leave the existing conditions as already stated, and to add an additional condition, which would be to lessen the massing on the second floor by some combination of eliminating or lessening, or maybe probably even just eliminating the balconies, I think would go a long way. And moving the wall back or the massing back a couple of feet more, 2 to 3 feet more, so that, you know, because you're right, you could just eliminate that little hallway and that little closet and, you know, really just push the entire mass backwards a little bit. You might have to tweak a little bit with the staircase location and stuff like that, but I think that it could still be very workable. And I think that that would go a long way towards eliminating that balcony, pushing that mass just a little bit back. So the balcony over the garage, I'm less concerned about that one because it is more on the uphill side. So I think that that would, especially with you know, the materials that are being used there, I think that would probably be less concerning to me. But the one on the left, I think, is where I'm really mostly concerned about getting some of that mass pulled away from the immediate neighbor to the west there. And, you know, especially when you're driving up the street and seeing the site, you know, that corner is going to be the most prominent corner. So if we can peel that back a little bit, I think that that will help to lessen the impact of that mass. So that would be what I would add as an additional condition.
To be clear, you're saying removing the balcony in the left corner and stepping back,
And stepping back a little
both
bit,
of
yeah.
those can, not either or as an option?
I think both.
Okay.
But I'm willing to concede that the balcony on above the garage would be okay to
Right.
stay.
I agree. I think, that works well with the design guidelines of stepping up towards the larger massing.
Yep. Nadig, you wanted to, okay, yeah, you can go ahead. So 2 minutes, is that okay with you?
So eliminating the balcony on the left and pushing it back, so you would just see a roof line when you're approaching instead of a glass
Instead
railing?
of the glass railing.
How would that help as far as massing?
Well,
I can see you pushing it back 2 feet.
Yeah, and I'm talking about pushing it back as well.
The wall pushing it back, but getting rid of the balcony, the glass railing, how would that?
So you're okay
work?
with pushing it back if you can keep the balcony?
I think so, yeah. Pushing it back is fine, but I just don't see the point of getting rid of that glass balcony. Since we have it on the right, I think it'll, you know.
Okay, I mean,
Yeah.
I guess that's okay.
Okay.
You amenable to that as well?
I am,
Okay,
yeah.
all right.
Okay. And then, as far as the entry roof, you know, my clients are really adamant about that, keeping that height.
It's just not in keeping
It
with the
doesn't,
design guidelines.
yeah.
It's really, and most of these examples you had don't really convince me of
Right.
that it's worthy. So I think that you can still keep a very tall door there,
Entry.
you know? But I think it's the prominence of that roof sticking out and those 2-story pillars that rise up to it that really makes it stand out. So,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I suppose we could, you know, you could do something in the middle, you know, not bring it all the way down to the first floor, but, you know,
Yeah, right.
you know, a little bit taller than the first floor, something like that might
Okay.
be amenable to me, but I think that actually if you did keep it at the first floor level and bring that roof line across, I think it would actually look
It's going to look
correct.
really nice.
It would look nice,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
I was hoping to be more specific
Yeah.
and have it be in line with that.
Yeah, I concur with the board member Lockeroff that bring that roof line across, you know, and keeping that consistent would actually be good for the design. But, you know, I'm amenable to hearing other people's perspective on that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Cool. Thank you.
Nadig.
Thoughts?
That was really helpful, you know, that they're willing to step back on that corner, and that, for me, that would be sufficient. I don't think we need to get rid of the glass railing, given that it's transparent, you know.
That's fine.
I do feel strongly, though, that having the roof line continue at one level is going to be a really nice asymmetrical appearance that's going to bring down the massing of the home. So I would like to be more specific on that condition. I'm not opposed to the door height. So,
Yeah. Likewise.
Yeah.
So in your mind, it would be bringing across the standing seam roof across, as
Correct.
opposed to that stucco element above the garage across, right?
Correct.
Yeah, I concur.
And so it seems like there's consensus on all that, mass, et cetera.
Right.
In regards to the stone veneer, turning the corner, there's one option, as staff has mentioned, and the chair has said, moving the fence back and terminating the veneer at the fence. If it's, let's say, 4 or 5 feet, maybe the fence would line up with the bedroom above or something, and the veneer would come here. Another option would be to take it all the way here, line it up with the building mass above, line it up with the window, and I think that's what the architect was mentioning. But any preference on either or?
I like the alignment with the window. I don't know if you can share your sketch there, but I do think that alignment with the second story massing termination at the end of that window.
Where the,
Yeah.
yes, where the second story turns
As a little
with the
dot
inside
there.
corner.
Correct.
Okay.
So that would be my motion,
I second.
with Board Member Simonian's friendly amendment there.
Right.
So just for clarifications before I take roll call, so I'm hearing that an additional condition is applied to lessen reduce the mass by setting back the second level floor by additional 2 to 3 feet. That would be the entire second floor.
No, the west side.
Just the west,
The west side,
just
so
the left-hand side
for,
there.
Let me get back to it would be the bedroom and the stair above the front entry. So looking at the,
It would be bedroom number 3.
I apologize, I'll get there. So this is the second floor.
That's the first floor.
First floor. Reduce the floor line at bedroom number 3, as well as the staircase, the hallway. And then not recess, well, they're both bedroom number 3.
Oh,
It would be, I guess, it still says bedroom number 4 next to the bathroom, so it would be the western bedroom number 3.
right.
And the staircase volume, but bedroom number 3 would remain. I'm sorry, the eastern bedroom number 3.
Yes, that
over here
one
remain.
would remain, correct.
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 And
And
then,
the staircase would remain, I think, or could remain in the
Right.
exact same location.
Okay, so
It's just
just
that
the-
that facade wall that is right in front of that stairway hallway, and that bedroom could push back.
Yeah. Basically elimination of the closet and moving the exterior wall to align with the southern wall of the stair, and then moving that line all the way over and clipping the bedroom, something like that, where,
So this would jut in here,
correct, so there would
and then it would
be,
recess right, going across this
Correct,
way.
yes.
so there would be about a, 2'11" of additional setback on the second floor, as a condition.
Right, so in the red area, this here, it would be out, sorry for the very thin weight, but this area here. Okay, thank you. In regards to the balcony, we're amenable to keep them. I did hear something from Board Member Lakaroff about, I think above the garage, the brow. Are we saying that we want to get rid of the brow and have the veneer terminate at a standing seam roof? Is that what I'm hearing?
Actually, the brow, I'm not disputing. I just think that the standing seam roof that is above the corner of the building should continue over the entrance.
Got it.
So that it's consistent, and it'll help to bring that entry height down. Yeah, and I think we're in agreement that the door height could stay as designed.
So the door height, so and this is just for me, when I do see these revisions of the plans with the applicant, I do want to be very clear with this, so I do appreciate your additional time.
Right.
When we lower it, the door height, the head height of the door can still be up to the header, up
Right.
above. Are we imagining this with my amazing animation here?
Which was very good, by the way. I like that.
The front
Now we're
entry.
going to expect this every time.
Yeah.
Do the interactive thing, Joe.
It would be somewhere in line here, this is what we're talking about, not somewhere in the middle or in between, or are we talking about when we say lowering it? In my eyes, my understanding that the line of the roof above that on the western side would continue along there, and that would be,
Continue in the
Right.
same manner, not
Thank
not necessarily a triangular shape.
Got it.
Yeah.
thank you.
So that it looks like one roof, in essence, yeah.
With these added conditions and clarifications, also amendment to condition number 5 to terminate the cladding with the second level recess or that inside, or that corner, to terminate at that location. This will be roll call. Thank you very much, board members. Board member, the motions, I didn't write it down. I believe that was a motion by Board
Motion, I
Member
think.
Lockhart
I
and a
seconded.
second by Board Member Welsh. This will be roll call. Board Member
No,
Lockhart?
made by Board Member Welsh and seconded by Board Member Lockhart.
Correct.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so we have a motion by Board Member Welsh and second by Board Member Lacroix. This will be roll call. Board Member Lacroix,
Yes.
Board Member Simonian,
Yes.
Board Member Welsh, Mr. Pro Tem Kaskanian.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0. Yes. I should have written to record that the mailings were correct. Please adjust the.
Have a good night.
Sorry.
Okay, well, that brings us to the last case on the agenda, and I'll be presenting this last case before you. It's a multifamily density bonus housing project, and we're reviewing the design today for the demolition of 5 existing residential dwelling units located at 424, 430, and 434 West Milford Street. The applicant is proposing the demolition of those 5 existing residential dwelling units on the site and the construction of a new 4-story, 43-unit multifamily residential housing project. The project is located in our 1650 medium-high density zone. The subject site is 21,750 square feet. A little bit of information I've already gone over, but in terms of the demolition, the existing structure there at 424 West Milford is developed with 2 units, front house built in 1922 and a rear house built in 1920. 430 Milford is developed with 2 units as well, front house built in 1913 and the rear house built in 1953. And 434 Milford developed with 1 single-family residence built in 1920. Grading for the property involves 4,760 cubic yards of cut and 132 fill, and the project is exempt under a Class 32 infill exemption per CEQA guidelines. And again, the applicant is proposing the construction of a new 4-story multifamily residential housing project involving a density bonus with 43 residential units. Floor area is 30,665 square feet total. And the density bonus request and affordable housing component was originally approved by the city council in April of this year. There are 8 units being restricted for very low-income households, and parking is provided on site with 36 parking spaces in the form of an underground parking garage. Just by way of a little bit of background in terms of some of the concessions, just so you know, they're associated with the density bonus housing project per density bonus housing state law. And based on the level of affordability, the applicant was entitled to 3 concessions. In this case, they received a concession to increase the maximum allowed FAR, floor area ratio, to increase the maximum allowed building height and number of stories, and to not provide the required additional open space. So the project features a total floor area ratio of 1.41, exceeding the maximum allowable by 0.4. The number of stories per code would be allowed 3 stories, but in this case, the concession was to allow 4 stories with an overall building height of 59 feet, 7 inches. And lastly, to not provide the additional open space that is gained by having a lot width of 90 feet or minimum width. But again, that was already part of the density bonus approval. And these are just some photos of the existing properties that are there that are proposed to be demolished as part of the project. A little bit of site context, so we're in the multifamily zone. There is a public school across the street, and on either side of the property, there are multifamily development, multi-story multifamily development, and to the rear as well. And this would be the proposed site plan for the proposed project, which involves the building with a courtyard in the middle. The buildings on the left side of your screen are more connected. There's a courtyard off to the side, and then, but it's all connected by way of the walkways. And then again, access to the parking garage along the east side and the ramps to the site from the sidewalk. The parking garage, I won't go into too much detail. You have this information in your packets, but again, they are providing parking on site with 36 parking spaces. And we'll jump straight to the design of the building, which is a contemporary, modern design. Features, again, different design detailing that is consistent with contemporary architecture, different variety of forms and volutes, mix of colors, which you can appreciate in the material palette that's included in the packet. This variety of, again, the playing of the volumes and materials, again, enhances the buildings. The building's proportions are appropriate to the site and relate well to the site in the neighborhood. The front facade is appropriately articulated, again, through the use of color, fenestration, cladding, and roof design, which, again, is identified throughout the structure. So a lot of playing of different colors and materials can be appreciated throughout the building. And same concept for the sides, a little more softer in terms of the use of materials, not as much as compared to the front, but more clean kind of design for the sides. But as we can appreciate, the materials do wrap along the sides, so you could see on the west elevation as well as the east elevation. So there's some continuation of that material and terminating at a logical location. And I will like to also incorporate some of the interior facades of the interior courtyard views that are included as well. And the roof deck that is being proposed, in addition to landscaping on the property and open space space in the interior courtyard, but again, additional open space is being provided on the rooftop. And these are the different colors and materials that are being proposed, along with the design detailing of the walls that are being incorporated into the design. Floor plans, I won't go into too much detail, but that's in your packet. And then I'd like to just jump into some of the suggested conditions that staff has included. And we are recommending approval with the 5 conditions outlined in the staff report. And it's more general comments regarding to provide cut sheets for all the site lighting and light fixtures on the building, and show those proposed site lighting locations, including in the common areas and on the building, to include that information for staff review. Also to identify gutters and downspouts if there's an internal drainage system, for that to be clearly noted. There's some concrete benches at the front, but that's more of a zoning item, so staff is suggesting for those to be relocated outside the front setback. To submit window sections depicting a typical opening and in a panel-cladded wall and cement wall, and lastly, to provide details of junctions when the materials intersect. And this is the landscape plan that provides drought-tolerant landscaping, again, enhancing further the design of the building. And that would conclude my presentation. I know the applicant also has a PowerPoint as well with their presentation, but if you have any questions, I'm available at this time.
Thank you. Any questions?
I do.
Yes, go ahead.
I know this is not exactly our area to adjudicate, but the density bonus that was done here, as I understand it, the state provides a minimum that we have to do 50% for the applicable here, but this is 152%. So how is that? How did that happen?
So, good question. So that's why it was approved by the city council, because it's discretionary at that point when it exceeds that 50%. So in this case, it was a discretionary approval that the city council made.
Is that common in Glendale?
It has occurred. It doesn't happen very frequently, but it has. I want to say I haven't processed too many with discretionary requests, but I've done a few, but it doesn't happen very often.
Okay. And this may be a question for the applicant, but on the 4th floor, the right-hand side, there's like a unit deleted and like a patio or balcony or something like that there, but it wasn't used in the calculations, or it wasn't shown in the landscaping plan. So I'm curious, is that actually going to be used as a patio and landscape area, or just like a rooftop with a parapet?
I'll have to defer to the applicant. Before I forget, there were 2 emails, correspondence that we forwarded to you earlier. So I wanted to acknowledge that you've received those 2 letters from the neighbors.
Yep, thank you.
Armina Simonian had submitted correspondence, as well as Kevin Dunn.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yes.
I have a very quick question. I'm wondering if staff could just hone in on the material board. On the top left one, if I could just read that text, I was wondering what that was. If you could zoom in on it.
I'm not sure if I can zoom in.
It's a cement board.
But it's, yeah, it's
colored.
a hardy panel,
Okay, understood.
cementitious.
Is that the color?
That's the color that we want. So I'll tell you where it was and what we've decided, so.
Any other questions before we move to public comments?
Just a simple question. The one person who wrote that said they were directly behind the project, can you point to where they are on the site plan, just so that I have an understanding?
Oops. I would assume they would be back here.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Nope. All right, thank you. And then we had one speaker comment. Alan?
Good evening, board members. I'm Alan Maliki. I'm the project architect. My office is at 2255 Honolulu, Montrose, California. So I've prepared a PowerPoint, even though Milka did a great job explaining. So I just wanted to kind of go over some of the architectural points that I wanted to make and then emphasize certain things that I think it will be important for us to understand. Also, I'm going to comment on the two letters that we received, and hopefully we can address those as well as far as the neighbors are concerned. So what I want to do is I want to, again, this is a 43 unit with 8 affordable, and we can talk about the increase in the density, what we did and what we ended up doing to kind of give for the additional number of units that we were able to do. So we can talk about that later on, and so after. Parking. We provided parking even though right when we were getting this approved, the AB 2097, I don't know if you are aware of that, that was in effect. So we can literally remove entirely in the parking and provide just bike parking. But we decided that as part of the development, as bringing some more value to the development, we added parking in this. The notable facts about this project, again, architecturally significant design. I want to be kind of proud of the project, being that I'm very much involved with numerous multifamily ED1, we call it ED1, the city of Los Angeles, and a lot of the 100% affordable units that have zero parking, zero setback. Literally, they're very, very small. And the design, the quality of materials, everything are questionable. And here we were managed to be able to get something significant and proud of. The scale, the context, and the surrounding multiple multifamily structures. One of the reasons that I've removed one of the units in the front was because of the scale of the front along Milford. At that west side of the property, it's actually a lower structure, whereas on the east side of the property, it's a taller structure. So I ended up putting the number of unit that we were having a 4-story there, and then stepping back and kind of proposing more of a scale as proportion to the west building itself. The drought-tolerant landscaping is a must on our end. The quality of materials, spacious living. The average units are about 750 square feet. The ED1s that we do are average about 380 square feet to 390 square feet. So these are a lot larger. We have a variety of studios, 1 bedrooms and 2 bedrooms, and we've managed to negotiate with the housing that we are providing 1 of each at least. And then we also have a bike parking in this project, and hopefully we can encourage some bike usage, as some of the council members and other approving bodies were encouraging some of the developers, which I think hopefully we can utilize that. Next, please. The inspirational images, some of the images that we brought in, some mid-century architecture, I'm very fond of, and try to kind of utilize that, trying to reduce some of the scale, the massing of the building of the 4-story. Open area for public on the deck level, as well as open staircase with some articulation, some excitement, some movement that the city, the unit will kind of present to the surrounding neighbors. Also color. You can see that again on the west end of it, it's lower in scale, stepping up to the elevator, and one more, yeah, and they are connected with bridges. We managed to kind of create a sense of nice entry in the front. We believe the ramp is eliminated by slope walkway and graded so that we don't have that obvious handicap accessible ramp to the entry. So we've managed to hide that in the landscape area. So we work with the landscape architect on that, as well as the drought tolerant landscaping. We've kind of massaged the front end of that. Next, please.
Stop moving.
Okay, I guess, yeah.
Can you pick up there because it's acting up a little bit?
Okay, so I'll just, well,
See, it's going too fast. It's taking a while.
no worries. So, one of the items that I think we need to kind of highlight is the landscape that we've provided around the buffer, around the perimeter of the building. We've created a setback of the structure, the parking structure. So all the landscape that we have, we're going to be able to do mature trees on grade, and that will allow better development of and maturity of the trees and so also obviously the setback we're going to have for the structure itself. You can see that on the sections if you like. The roof deck is an important part of this project. We were able to get the open space on the roof, which we will encourage people to use, and rather than the ground level open space, which was previously encouraged on that. Next, yeah. So again, a landscape. We've used again the landscaping, the drought tolerant, and some trees. Palo Verde is one of my favorite trees, so I had to make sure that I get those in the project. So I will always have those. Next, please. So underground, again, the parking, it is designed around the long-term bike parking. We do have adequate enough storage for the residents, as well as the 36 number of parking spaces that we have. Next. The color depicts different types of units and designations. So the top right is the 2-bedroom facing the mountains. The studio, we call it studio. It's more of a it can be turned into a bedroom, and projects we've called a bedroom, but we call it studios, which are on the greens. The blues are all 1-bedroom, and then we have a smaller 1-bedroom that is facing the north, the mountains as well. So we have different variety, and then the stars that you see are the actual affordable units that we've allocated. So you kind of see how many we have and where they are located. Next, please.
Keep going.
Again, the step back that we have from the rear, as well as the articulation on the facade, but the repetitiveness of these units and being stacked on top, that's going to be the big savings in the development and hopefully the savings that we will have to be able to develop. Next. And the 4th level, which would be the roof deck, or, sorry, not the 4th level, so next. So the 4th level, you mentioned about the roof deck on the top corner. It is a roof deck. It is an open space. I've left that open. It's more of units that are in that floor rather than encourage people that come from every floor to use that. I was hoping that basically the 4th level would have that extra small little area that they can actually go and use there. We weren't planning to put any planting or anything. We wanted to concentrate on all the waterproofing, planting, decking, and everything else on the roof. Whereas if I do end up putting that, it would be mostly just an open space, some people to gather there. We can put pots and, some, I wouldn't want to do actual planter boxes, and so actual built-in planter boxes, just because of the concentration of the waterproofing and all the requirements that we're going to have on the roof. Next. On the roof, we have allocated solar panel, even though that we will be able to eliminate that, but we are going to propose solar panel in the project by use of other means of green requirements, but we are going to be providing solar. All the units will have their own independent unit, AC units, which will be probably a ductless units. as well as the open garden area that it will be open for people to use daily. The materials that we have, originally the green was, as it started, the green was a project that I was inspired by in Santa Monica, actually, and it was originally cladded with copper, but then because of the weather of Santa Monica, it patinaed and it turned green. So that was the inspirational color that came from. I don't know if you can afford patinaed copper for the project, being that it originally started, but then that's the inspiration of the color that is coming from there. So we will try to match the color as best as we can. We are using corrugated steel metal that would be more of like a, I lost the name for it. But it will be a rusted material. There's another name for it, I forgot. The detailed railings, a stacked, a burnished block, and then obviously the stucco with a variety of different colors are gonna, hopefully we're gonna encourage and create some excitement to the project itself. Next. Gives you a little bit of a perspective of what you would see around, and the recessed parts of it, again, we're introducing some color. I try to minimize as much as possible of windows along the south facing, and all the circulation would basically happen along the back of the building, open circulation. And outdoor area, and then you have the roof covered area for the elevator and the stairs, which is open again, similar to the rear. So next. Yeah, and this kind of gives you the actual perspective of that. So going down the list, I wasn't able to download the conditions, but I have no problem. These are definitely a must for us to provide, so I have no problem with the conditions. Read the two emails, thank you for forwarding. One of the emails had to do with parking and the development and the increase in the condition, or their concern was that the development does not have enough parking. You provide parking, you're overbuilding, you have to basically excavate extra, and then we can't afford the affordable project. We can, again, as I started my presentation, we could have exercised the AB 2097. It's given, eliminate parking altogether. Again, we meet that as well. But we decided to come in the middle and provide some parking, some bike parking, and try to provide as best as we can to most of the units. And how that's going to be programmed, it's going to be up to the management and how they're going to, decide and who's going to get that. That I'm not going to get involved in of that. Another neighbor, another email that was received had to do with the development of four-story blocking view. Obviously, we all know that there's no ordinance in view blockage. And then also they were concerned about the light and the sun. Well, the structures on the north, so obviously we're not going to get any shadowing from the building to the south. Everything will be basically from south. The buildings from the south is going to. Also, the setback and not having units facing the back and creating a site of the building to have a least amount of windows and openings. I was hoping that would eliminate any concerns that the neighbors would have. Also, the setback as well as the landscaping that we have. So I'm acknowledging the email, but I think that development will not be as detrimental as they assume that would be. Any questions?
Any questions? Nope. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. Very nice presentation. I appreciate that sort of your own view. So first question, did you consider doing like a U-shaped plan to maximize the amount of that or functionality of that outdoor space rather than having a sort of more long, narrow corridor?
So technically, yes, we actually thought about that, but then it would limit the number of units. So the U shape of that, or rather than, we're talking about the landscaping, putting in the middle, and so you can walk around on the ground level.
Yeah.
That actually we looked at. The reason that I've kind of pushed that to the left is because the opening is against the entrance, so the walkways are open in front of the unit entrances, whereas the landscape and the green area is the back of the units that are entering from the hallway. So if I create that walkway, that means then I have people walking behind someone's bedroom window. So that's why I wanted to discourage people walking, as you're sleeping and you have people walking in front of your bedroom. It just didn't make sense as circulation. And that's why I pushed the landscape against, I don't know if you want to go to the, I can kind of be a little bit more clear.
Which one do you want me to go to?
Any of the ground level site plans would work, yeah, that's fine. So if you look at unit number 5, 6, 7, the landscape covers around the patio. And the unit 8, 9, 10, and 11 are the entrances for those units. So the walkway, keeping it open to enter into the walkway, into the units, I just felt that that's going to be the main circulation. Whereas if I make that, even though my example, actually inspirational example was like that, we actually started with that, but then decided that rather than having people walk in front of the patios and the living room, then it would be better for us to landscape in front of that.
Okay. I mean, I ask because it's fairly narrow and quite tall. So that space,
I agree and I hear you, but I mean, I just don't have, I'd rather have the landscape against the patio and have a little bit more of a privacy in the middle units than have people walking in front of them. That was the only reason.
Okay, so let me ask my next question. Because you don't have one parking space per unit, what is the plan for how parking gets allocated? Are you going to decouple the parking?
Technically, it's a conversation we need to have. We need to figure out a game plan, to be honest with you. Something that is fair, something that is not discriminative, something that would be adequate enough for everyone, maybe first come, first serve, or and I don't know. I mean, that it is tough, providing. It would have been much easier if I didn't provide any. It would have been a lot simpler. It's like, here it is, you're moving into this apartment without any parking. That's your rent.
Well, I would encourage you towards that, and basically charge separately for the parking.
And that may be
some accommodation for the affordable
that may be
unit.
exactly
I think decoupling parking in a situation where you don't have sufficient for every unit.
that may be the solution. I just don't want to commit to something that legally I'm aware or understand the legal ramifications of providing, not providing, charging and not charging. So that's something that probably we would have to consult with someone to understand.
And then going back to my first question about that third floor, well, I guess it would be on the fourth floor, that balcony space.
Right.
What would be the flooring material there? Is that going to be decking material?
So
or
the
just
flooring material would be probably a traffic grade pedestrian, so some sort of a I don't want to call it Dexotex, but I would probably call it some sort of a lighter material that is designed for walking surfaces, something that it's durable as well as waterproof, as well as people can actually utilize and so forth. So-
Not like ceramic tile?
No,
or
no,
any
absolutely
kind
not.
of-
I'm not a fan of ceramic tiles or anything. I mean, both being slippery, also they always crack and break, and waterproofing and issues. On the roof, on the other hand, we're probably going to end up using a system called Biosin, and what it is that it's basically a leveling, a rounded leveling plastic supports that they come in every corner, every 2 foot in spaces, and they're raised. All the waterproofing is down below, and then you have a nice surface, walking surface that you have on the roof deck. Either it will be wood or stone or whatever the case may be.
Some kind of material.
Tracks or something. But that would be what we use on the roof. On the actual, the 4th floor will be probably the same material we use on the walkways that will extend over to the open space there.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No.
Nope. And thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have any callers?
No.
No callers, all right. So we'll close the public hearing. Remember, or, so, did you want to go first? Go ahead.
I would just like to say this is a great design. I'm really excited about this project. It's very well done. I'm very excited about the way that you've articulated the facade and brought in different materials. And so it almost looks like 4 row houses or something where they all look different but cohesive. And I appreciate your inspiration, with the metal, and the colors are quite vibrant and fun, and yeah, creative use of materials. And so I just say overall, I strongly support this project, and I would agree with staff's conditions as is.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Board Member Walsh?
Thank you. Again, thank you for presentation, explanations, being patient with my questions. I largely concur. I mean, the only thing that I might have really looked harder at is doing more of a U-shaped design to maximize the utility of the open space in the central courtyard area, because I think that courtyard space will really not be used. It'll just be people using the roof. They won't really use that space, so it kind of goes to waste in my mind. But I understand, the limitations there and trying to meet the program for the unit count. I like the design as well. I think that's it's interesting color palette that you've chosen. I appreciate the explanation about the copper, because it was really, I was thinking it looks more like a Miami design than a Los Angeles one, but I get what you're trying to go for there, and that juxtaposition with that brown metal, the corrugated metal, I think works well. The only thing that I might ask is maybe we can or vary the amount of stucco used on the balconies, particularly the ones on the side where it's that gray stucco. Could we not have more railings or gray translucent glass or something like that on those sides, rather than just stucco balconies? But that's kind of a minor nitpick in my opinion. But otherwise, I think that the overall design, the effect is good. I think that considering the massiveness of it, which we really have no say in, you've done well to really sort of be responsive to it. Like Board Member Lockhart pointed out, breaking up those masses so it really does look like multiple different buildings there. So that's about my perspective. So thank you.
Thank you. Board Member Simonian?
I concur. It's a project well-designed, well-done. It's very appropriate for the location, too. I mean, right across from the elementary school. It's ideal for today's working society. I mean, to have the ability to walk your kids across the street to the elementary school and not have to, drive 20 minutes or wait in queue, I think will seriously affect people's, lives in a positive way. And I totally concur with, charging for parking, and you make it à la carte, and which is what we've been doing in other parts of the cities. Not here as much, but in other parts is exactly that. You get your rent, and that's your rent, and then if you want parking, that's your parking rent. That seems to work well. In regards to the materials, the articulation, the mass of the building, its layout, everything is just well thought out. You could tell a lot of effort has gone in to work out the design, and the presentation itself was top notch. That fly through gave me a good idea as to the east and west facades. So overall, I support the project. I think it provides double the affordable units that I think they would have had to give. 15% of 21, I think, rounds up to 4, so you doubled it to 8. So that was kind of the give and take. And I do support it, and I think it's going to be a good project. So job well done, and job well done on staff coordinating, taking it through the density bonus and bringing it here, because it's a lot of work.
Thank you. I concur with my fellow board members. Did an excellent job. Thank you for that presentation. Yeah, it was really good. I'm very excited to see it come to life. So thank you all.
Do we have a motion?
I move to approve the project with the conditions as stated.
I second the motion.
The 5 conditions in the staff report, do we want to add any other comments? I know Board Member Welch had made some comments about
If
maybe
anything,
reducing
that
the
was
amount.
consideration. It's not really a conditional thing, so.
Well, do we want to include it as a consideration to reduce, I guess, the amount of stucco along the sides, specifically maybe the balconies, or not really?
I didn't hear anybody else jumping on that, so it doesn't sound like it, so.
Okay. We're good? Okay, so it sounds like just the 5 conditions that were included in the staff report, and the motion was made by Board Member Simonian.
And I second the motion.
by-
Yeah.
Second by Board Member Lockruff to approve with the conditions, solely the 5 that were included in the staff report. Board Member Simonian.
Yes.
Board Member Lockruff.
Yes.
Board Member Welch.
Yes.
Chair Pro Tem Kaskanian.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0 to approve with conditions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'd like to just wish the entire staff a very happy holiday season.
Thank you very much.
There's a lot of work that goes into these hearings. You guys are here late all the time running these, and we appreciate it. And also wanted to take the opportunity and just wish everyone in the public and listening at home, happy holidays, happy New Year, and we look forward to next year.
We'll see you all next year, 2024.
Next year.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're adjourned. Thanks.